you ready?
Hello and welcome into the Charter Road Hospitality Suites. I am Michael Snowden with executive producer Jon Rawl. Jon, how are you?
I'm good, Michael. Thank you for having me on this week.
Oh, gladly. Well, we've got a lot to talk about this week as far as the Laremy Tunsil investigation, as that will be a major upcoming problem with time to come over the summer for Ole Miss. We will also get into the draft itself. Kemdichi going 29th, Treadwell going 23rd, and obviously Tunsil going 13th with a few other Rebels drafted. And we will also speak of the Ole Miss baseball team, who had a very good weekend, knocking down LSU 2-1, finishing off with a very impressive third game win to send the Tigers back to Baton Rouge as the 12th-ranked Rebels got that victory. What else have we got on stage today, Jon?
Well, I think the Tunsil situation is enough. Browning Stubbs, our normal co-host on the show, picked a good week to take off. You know, he went to Chicago for the NFL draft last week, and he, along with all the other people who had Ole Miss at heart, had to absolutely be in disbelief as that draft went on. I mean, this is the talk of the town, talk of the world from a sports perspective, and it's not a good thing. And I don't mind telling you my thoughts on it. I've been following Ole Miss football for decades, and this is unprecedented what happened in Chicago.
Oh, no doubt about it. Well, we'll have a lot to get into today. Keep it locked right here on Hotty Toddy Hotline.
Hey, Rebels, your truck is here. Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford presents the all-new Ram Rebel. It's Ram, the Rebel way. Send an unmistakable signal. Rebel 24/7. Ram Rebel from your friend in the car business. Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford.
Come by, let's be friends.
All right, welcome back to Town Place Suites in the Charter Road Hospitality Studios. I'm Michael, followed with Jon Rawl. So let's get into what happened over the weekend, starting with the Laremy Tunsil situation. As we all saw, Laremy Tunsil had his gas mask video of him smoking a substance leaked just 13 minutes before the draft. At that time, no one really knew who the hacker was. Many people said it could have been his stepfather or someone else.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't Jon Rawl.
Was it you?
It was not me either.
Okay.
No. I had nothing to do with it. I personally truly like Laremy as a guy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say gas mask.
Oh, no, I'm not. No gas mask for me. I'm a little smarter than that.
Okay.
But
and if you did, you wouldn't put it on video.
Oh, absolutely not. Why would anybody? That's especially with a rebel flag in the background.
It was a rebel pride flag, but you know that's the thing that's supposed to hurt recruiting and all this. And here you have a star player who didn't have a problem partying underneath the stars and bars. So
you gotta love it.
Doesn't make sense to the people who hate the flag so much.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, but as I was reading this morning, there was apparently some clarity, according to the sportingnews.com, that Laremy Tunsil's former financial advisor could have been the one to leak this video, as many people were thinking, well, could it have been maybe somebody from Alabama? Not saying that I think that, but I've heard rumors. Could it have been, his stepfather? But this is the latest report that we have as far as that goes. So what do you think about if it is this guy? We're not saying it is, but according to this website, what do you think why do you think he would, of all people?
This is just absolutely bizarre, and I frankly was out of the state when this happened. I didn't even know what was going on until you texted me saying something to the effect of, boy, this week's show is going to be interesting. And I thought it was a little unusual for you to send that to me, so I immediately got on Twitter and saw what was happening. And I'm still, I'm in shock.
Right.
I think it was pretty low down to what they did by putting it on his Instagram. It's a hack. It's really, I think it's illegal. I'm pretty sure it is. This stuff happens. Somebody might hack our account. Who the heck knows? I have nothing to hide. The fact is it happened. I think it cost him money. My big problem isn't with Laremy Tunsil as much as it is the university. It appears the items related to the university, based on their reaction, are probably true. And the text that went back and forth between Tunsil and the coaching staff, that's what I care about, because Tunsil, he's going to do dumb things. Most kids in their teens and early 20s do dumb things.
Right.
I don't want to pick on the kid too much for that, but I am mad, and I think most Ole Miss fans should definitely be hurt by the way this coaching staff's misled them, if indeed this is true, because Coach Freeze has made a big point to say, if you've got anything, bring it to me.
Right.
And at least according to his own player, he got paid to be a player, and that is a major, major problem. This, in my opinion, may be worse than SMU, because you got an active player admitting in front of the whole world.
Right.
This wasn't just one little interviewee.
And he didn't even know at the time that the Instagram post had been hacked.
Oh, is that right?
Right.
This is a guy in front of one of the biggest media stages there are all year long. The NFL draft has people come from all. Browning Stubbs went to it, for goodness sake. And here he is admitting that he got paid to play college football, which, honestly, I think virtually every major program cheats. Okay, I think that's the misstatement of the century. The problem is Ole Miss got caught with their pants down, and I don't see how you can get out of it. And I think heads are going to roll. They should roll. Is it fair? Maybe not. I don't think Auburn should have gotten away with what they did with Cam Newton. I don't think UNC should be getting away with what they got away with from a cheating standpoint from both a football and basketball. It made me happy to see UNC lose that national championship basketball game, because this is a dirty program, and they came that close to winning a national championship for basketball, and thank goodness they didn't. But Ole Miss, back to here, they got caught with their pants down, and I just don't see this turning out good for Freeze, Bjork. I mean, Bjork, everybody thinks he's just wonderful and all that, but if you go and chalk up his time in Oxford for all the good he's done, there's a lot of problems. Mainly, 30 violations that came out not long ago?
Mostly women's basketball and track and field.
Well, it still happened under his watch, and he fired the head basketball coach, Wiggins, at that time, which I'm not sure Wiggins had much to do with it, but he fired him to set an example. And here Bjork may just have to fall as an example of this, because, again, I hate it for you, Ross. You got cold busted if this is indeed true.
Right. Well, I want to piggyback off your point for a minute. As I was watching some national media recently, and I listened to Around the Horn, and Bomani Jones had a very interesting quote that I'd like to share with everybody. Ole Miss has got the problem that they fit the profile of a program that the NCAA would love to make an example of, referring to the national stage problem with Laremy Tunsil. A program that got good very quickly. People didn't understand, how do you get the number 1, the number 3, and the number 10 player all being number 1 at their respective group. And then the interest, my final quote, his Bomani's final quote, they're going to come at Ole Miss guns a-blazing. Now, that is what I think is the most interesting part of all of this. Tunsil is done. He is drafted. He's gone to the Dolphins. He doesn't have to worry about this. Ole Miss does. And as we were talking about the violations from earlier, they were pretty much done with those. Everybody they were waiting on that third party, but those things were almost solidified and finished. But now Pandora's box has been opened essentially for Ole Miss this summer, and there's going to be a huge investigation past this. And I'm interested to see what they find. And clearly, right now, we're talking about a $305 electric bill for Laremy Tunsil's mother. Okay, we're not even talking rental cars anymore. Yes, that happened, but for this particular situation, it was his mother's rent, and the school is making millions off of them. Hey, NCAA, we're talking to you. Let's play the fair game.
We got a lot to talk about, including maybe there shouldn't even be this thing called college football from a student-athlete perspective.
And not anymore.
I'm not making excuses for Ole Miss because, again, you got caught.
Right.
But it's kind of a joke, let's be honest.
Right. All right, well, we have much more to get to, and we will see you in just a moment. Welcome back here to the Charter Road Hospitality Studios. I am Michael Snowden with Jon Rawl. So continuing our discussion with Tunsil.
Laremy Tunsil,
right, yes. He also, not only in this, Ole Miss lost a little bit of mojo. Tunsil got hurt on this night, too, and he handled it. I'm not going to lie, I think he handled it very, very well. I mean, he
had an allergic reaction, remember?
Right, totally, absolutely. But he had an allergic reaction, and he handled the allergic reaction very well. But I feel so bad for Tunsil because you start off as 3 weeks ago, the number 1 pick in the draft.
He was picked.
Titans, we're going to do it. Trade. Okay, you're still top 3, top 5. Next, you fall back, and you're next, and you're next, and you're next, and you're next until you're 13th. Total loss, project him at $8 million. Now, he'll make that back probably if he keeps his head right. But how do you see this affecting Tunsil for the rest of his career?
I don't think it will. I mean, look, the guy's from Florida. He's probably glad to be back in his native state. He's obviously a good player, but he probably, like a lot of student athletes, went to college to play football, but really would rather just play football. And that's why in the previous segment we kind of teased it's kind of a joke, this whole student athlete junk. As a person who has a degree from the University of Mississippi, and I know it's texting and it's not necessarily formal speech here, but if indeed those are Tunsil's text to a coach, and I know people don't always use proper English in texting. That's kind of embarrassing. Anybody that studies the King's English would be a little bit embarrassed by some of the vernacular and stuff going on between he and the alleged text between he and the coaches. Look, the guy wants to play football. There's nothing wrong with that. Unfortunately, in today's world we live in, there's no minor league football system. So I think many people would rather just see football be played for the love of the game and not some joke of student athletes. Most of these students that actually are most of these players in the NCAA that are real stars would probably rather skip class and go play football because that's what they come to schools like Ole Miss for.
Right.
It's not to get a degree. Don't kid yourself. Some of them are, yes. Some of them are concerned about their academic career, but a lot of them, they make a decision where to go to school for 2 reasons. Am I going to get playing time because I want to make a good resume reel to go to the NFL? And sadly, and I've always joked about this, it's kind of ironic that I'm sitting here talking about this today. My 2 reasons, one is playing time. The other one is how much am I going to get paid? And that may be the case here with Tunsil. It appears that it would be. But again, this is not to pile on Ole Miss. This happens everywhere in major college football. It's one reason, frankly, Michael, I'm not that big of a fan of big-time sports anymore. I used to be, and situations like Cam Newton the other year, and I love the Carolina Panthers. That's my favorite NFL team, but I don't like them in some ways because of Cam Newton, because I know what he did at Auburn, and he just smiles and pretends like
so
it
So
wasn't.
you must really hate the SMU football program hard.
Well, they paid a heavy price. I like SMU. Other than the fact that Gerald Turner is their chancellor or president or whatever, the former Ole Miss chancellor, because I think he did a lot to damage the Billy Brewer years that are at Ole Miss by turning on. I mean, you may not know this, back in the early 90s when Ole Miss was in some NCAA problems, the administration was turning in the football program to the NCAA to try to get Coach Brewer fired, and it didn't work out for a long time, but ultimately Turner got his way. SMU paid a very heavy price, and I'm not so sure that SMU's better off now because of it, because they at least, to my knowledge, are doing things a lot better. I don't think their basketball team is, because I think they got in trouble with Larry Brown as their head coach.
He just didn't want to go do some recruiting stuff.
Okay, but anyway, it's just a very ugly, dirty world, as anything involving lots of dough. I mean, this is ridiculous how much these schools and these administrators are making. To Hugh Freeze's credit, when he was hired at Ole Miss away from Arkansas State, he was the lowest paid NCAA coach. And I think he should have been paid that low. He came from Arkansas State. He'd only been a head coach maybe 2 years or so.
Well, we can't dock what he has done with the program.
And now he's making $5 and $6 million or whatever it is a year. He's done a lot with the program, but the question is he doing it legitimately?
Well, that's what we're going to find out. And and another thing you were talking about in the last segment, Hugh Freeze said, "Bring it at me if you find anything."
Is that what he said? Exactly?
Oh, I think that's what you said, right?
Yeah,
well, either way, what I think is interesting out of all this, though, is these texts were dealing with a guy named Barney and was a different assistant coach. Hugh Freeze was not even mentioned in all of this.
He's not mentioned, but come on.
Okay, I understand that. But as of right now, Hugh Freeze is not on the records with any of this. He has not paid Laremy.
Yeah.
He spoke for him in everything he had done. And it's got. I mean, obviously, there's going to be an investigation. We're going to have to find out, who all did what. But from the looks of it, Hugh Freeze has, as of right now, no part in this, and as of right now, it's only a $305 electricity bill. Now, let's just say that's all we find. That's it. Let's just say. We're going to get a slap on the wrist anyway from the NCAA. We're going to get hit with a fine because it was on national TV and it made everybody look bad. Obviously, Ole Miss is already cooperating, and a source close to the school says the NCAA, I bet, is on campus today.
Well, they've been on campus. I mean, they had
they're gonna come
investigators on campus before the start of the season, and that's why this whole Tunsil 7-game suspension thing happened as a result of a bunch of investigators coming. I've talked to people who were investigated as part of that, and they said it was very intense, and they were pretty scared. Now, I don't know what ended up happening with that. This is my problem. It's not necessarily with Tunsil the person, but the fact is I thought it was a joke what the NCAA did to him when they suspended him for the 7 games and then let him come back. The guy lied to the NCAA.
Right. Well, we held him out for 7 games.
Well, whatever the case. I mean, he is not a perfect angel in this thing.
No one
is. But, my source within the program that I talked to, or source close to the program, I should say, tells me that he told me this while the investigation was still going on, that don't worry, the SEC is going to pay the NCAA off so Ole Miss doesn't get into big trouble. And that's probably what happened because, look, the SEC has a stake in this thing. They don't want to see
contract with ESPN.
Well, they don't want to see one of their 14-member institutions have a humongous black eye if they can help it. And so they have a lot of reasons to protect their schools, even if the schools are assume that they're guilty.
Right. Well, let's stray away. Let's head to more positive.
Let me before no, I've got to say that.
Oh, you want one more? All right.
Well, I just want to say that I'm not saying this is what needs to happen, but this is something that Ole Miss fans need to be prepared for because this is kind of a standard operating procedure in a lot of cases when things this severe happen. And a lot of times, not saying it's going to happen here, a lot of times a school might come out pretty soon and announce, okay, we're going to self-impose, we're not going to have any postseason this year. That happens. Remember, Miami did it. North Carolina did it. We're going to self-impose, no postseason this year. You could see somebody, if this Farrar guy, Barney, and the other coach who both are like Hugh Freeze's right-hand people, if they're still employed before the end of May, I will be surprised if this is indeed true. Again, I don't want to take anything away from the coaches. They still have the legal process here, if that's such a thing, with the NCAA to go through. But if indeed these texts seem to be true and prove to be true, I mean, their hands are all over this thing. But like it or not, because he is the head man, you could see Freeze taking a fall for this. You could see Bjork, not just because of this, but because of the 7-game issue going on with Tunsil before. You've got all the basketball problems. This is a tremendous problem. And, again, it all falls back to the fact that Ole Miss got caught naked. I mean, naked as a jaybird when your own player gets up on international TV and admits something like this, and then there's these texts. It is an absolute mess, and don't be surprised by anything that happens, including Ole Miss getting away pretty easy because, again, there's so much money involved here that the NCAA, the SEC, I'm calling the NCAA out. I believe they are capable of taking bribes from conferences and schools because the NCAA is a joke, in my opinion, right. the way they operate a lot of things. This comes back to, and we mentioned a little bit in the previous segment, the fact that a lot of these kids just want to play football. That's all they want to do. So why don't we have a system out there where they can play football and not have to worry about these silly things like going to class and all that?
Right.
I mean, would you be interested in going to see a really good football game of 20-year-olds?
I get to.
That don't go to class and try to call themselves student athletes?
I mean, I personally, speaking just from the fact that I am a 20-year-old, I myself am trying to get a degree. I can't speak for all of the players on that team. I think some of them, there's only 4 or 5 guys that got drafted, so I think most of those guys.
Ole Miss had to be one of the leading schools.
We did, but when you think about it from everybody else's perspective, I mean, how many, probably 80, 85, 90% of the schools didn't even have a kid get drafted. Yeah. So, I mean, I personally think that an education is truly undervalued in all of this. And now, I mean, that's kind of what the NFL for, though, isn't it? Like, I mean, I understand from where your perspective is coming from that it would be awesome to see, basically like an all-star game. Like, I mean, Alabama, Ole Miss, but all the players are good, and they don't have to focus, and they can all just practice all the time, which, I mean, kind of they do anyway. But, there are going to be guys that need that education coming out so they can go do something else. I mean, if you have –
These athletes have so much given to them. I'm sorry.
Right.
They get scholarships. They get tutors. They are treated like kings when they go around town. They have a lot going for them. Yeah, they go out and work hard for their football team or whatever the sport may be. Don't want to take anything away from that. But they do have a lot of favors coming their way. They have a lot of perks. And I think this whole notion of paying players that Steve Spurrier pushed was a joke, because it may be this year, but next year they're going to want a little bit more and a little bit more. And I think that the time's coming where there needs to be this wake-up call that NCAA football, if you want to continue it being the big money maker that it is, I don't think it was designed to be a million dollar enterprise when it was first started. Well, it is, and it's spinning out of control. It's been spinning out of control, and Ole Miss may be the latest example of it spinning out of control.
All right, well, we have much more to get to when we get back. Keep it locked here on Hotty Toddy Hotline.
Because you want more flavor, at Nuke's we marinate and grill to perfection. Because you want the latest culinary tastes and trends, we never rest. At Nuke's, great food drives us. So we are meticulous in our preparation, obsessed with the quality of our ingredients, and uncompromising about serving you our very best. We believe that sharing a memorable meal is one of life's ultimate pleasures. Join us at Nuke's Eatery.
All right, welcome back into Hotty Toddy Hotline. I'm Marcus Snowden here with Jon Rawl. So let's get to what else happened over the weekend. And it was, other than all of what happened, it was a fantastic weekend for Ole Miss. You have, for the first time in the program history, 3 guys going in the first round. Not the way we really expected it, how it would have happened maybe a month ago, but it happened. With Laquan Treadwell obviously going 23rd to the Minnesota Vikings. And, John, I saw a video. There was a huge group of Vikings fans out there, and they erupted when they heard Treadwell's name. Laquan Treadwell, if you thought he's got some love here, he's already got love in Minnesota, and he hadn't even worn a jersey yet.
Look out, Teddy Bridgewater.
That's gonna. I'm telling you, that Vikings team, they already made a postseason run last year. And they're just starting out. Yeah, they're just starting out. Now you got Treadwell going there, and he's going to be their main receiver for a while. It's going to be fun to see what happens. I think it'll be interesting to see him play in the cold. I mean, he's from Chicago, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, Tunsil going 13th to the Dolphins.
What did you think about that?
I thought it was a very good pick. I mean, obviously, it's a steal for the Dolphins. I mean, when you've got a franchise tackle falling to 13, you're going to go, hey, I'm grabbing this guy. Odd scenario. But I think that's going to be very good for them. Obviously, Ryan Tannehill has been sacked over 100 times, I believe, was the stat in the last couple of years. That's not going to happen much anymore. Granted, he stays healthy. And then finally, the 29th pick, Robert Nkemdiche. This was, in my personal opinion, not my favorite one, but the one that made the most sense. Nkemdiche, as Ole Miss people know, he was kind of the guy, not that he was a bad guy, he was the one that had more questions surrounding him than Tunsil did before all of this happened.
There weren't enough videos.
Right, exactly.
YouTube couldn't have supported all the alleged activity that Nkemdiche's been involved in.
Right, and when you see 29th Arizona Cardinals select Robert Nkemdiche, that's a fantastic place for Robert Nkemdiche. You're in the middle of Arizona. It's a smaller market. It's a big market. It's a good team too, and that's what's so great for Nkemdiche and all this. He's going to probably get some big reps right away. He's NFL ready, and he's got a great team behind him. I mean, this team is close to making a special run. Obviously, we saw it about 7 or 8 years ago. I mean, completely different team, but still the Cardinals have that past. So it'll be interesting to see how Nkemdiche goes. Now, the only bad part for Arizona Cardinal fans, Panthers can live in Arizona. I don't know how he can make it happen, but if Nkemdiche still wants a
Carolina
Panther.
Panthers, plus if you don't know what he's talking about, Kim Beechey came out and said that he wants a real live panther as a pet.
Yes, he does.
Which he is absolutely crazy. I've been told there's some here in Lafayette County, Mississippi, so he needs to go around and look for a panther here in the wild.
It'll be very interesting to see that. So, looking back on this draft, and also we got to mention two other guys. Cody Core got drafted as well. He got picked up by the Cincinnati Bengals, and there were some other guys that went elsewhere. C.J. Johnson, I believe, was signed by the Patriots after the draft. So it was a fantastic draft for Ole Miss and a great day for the Rebels. So, John, out of everything that happened, which player are you most looking forward to at the next level of all the Rebels? And then, secondly, which one do you think will have the most success in the league in their careers?
Well, the intriguing one is Kim Beechey. Here's a guy that, if you'd have gone back a year ago, he would have been probably the number one overall pick in most people's eyes because he was this superstar. He was the number one kid coming out of high school from over in Georgia. And I'll be honest with you, I think he has, over the course of the last 2 years, his reputation amongst Ole Miss fans has not lived up to what it could have been, what it should have been.
Right.
The guy's had off-the-field issues. The guy, if you want to go get a highlight reel of Kim Beechey's career, you're going to have to really look pretty hard.
Right.
And a lot of people say, well, that's because he's doing things that you don't see if you follow the ball. Maybe so, but let's just say he didn't have that. Was it
Alabama game where he was
Jadeveon Clowney moment that you saw play 200 times on ESPN when the time he knocked that Michigan quarterback,
right,
or running back or whatever it was. He didn't have one of those moments, to my knowledge, his entire career at Ole Miss. So, what might have been, what could have been, this guy should have been maybe talked about in the Heisman Trophy list, and he didn't get there. And so, going to Phoenix and playing for the Cardinals, I think, like you said, it's a little bit of a place that you kind of stuck there. Have you ever been to Phoenix, Arizona?
I have actually. Yes,
okay.
I liked Arizona. It was a really nice area.
It has it's hot.
It is hot. It is hot, but it's not humid hot.
It's a place that I know a member of the Cardinals football team, and he actually hosts one of our sister shows here for Georgia Dog Dial. Drew Butler is his name. Does a great job. And maybe Kim Beechey will pull out a few golf clubs because that's what Drew does a lot. And Larry Johnson is a huge golfer. He's actually, I think, hit 2 holes in ones in the last 2 years, the wide receiver for the Cardinals. So Kim Beechey needs to stay out of the clubs and stay with his golf clubs in Phoenix with the Arizona Cardinals. But I think with his skill set, I think he can do a great thing for Arizona. I mean, this is a team that was one of the best teams in all of football last year. And had they not run into the buzzsaw that was Carolina in Charlotte there in the NFC Championship game, they could have been in the Super Bowl. I love their coach. He's a cool guy, a Bear Bryant disciple over there in Phoenix. But I think he's one worth watching. As far as these other players, kudos to Cody Core. I think the tight end position is a position that it's really, to me, been underutilized at Ole Miss. And I love the fact that in the NFL, they really give the tight end an opportunity to participate.
Gronkowski.
Yeah, there's so many of them. And so look forward to maybe his participation in the NFL being a lot more than it was in college.
Right. Well, congratulations to all the players that got drafted and all of your dreams that have been reached. We at Ole Miss will continue to love you down here in Oxford. All right, well, when we get back, we will discuss a fantastic baseball weekend between Ole Miss and LSU, and we will talk about the upcoming schedule. Keep it locked here on Hotty Toddy Hotline. And welcome back into Hotty Toddy Hotline. I'm Michael, followed with Jon Rawl. So, John, let's get into Ole Miss baseball. Ole Miss had a solid weekend, and I've watched some of the games. Ole Miss takes the 3-game series, 2 out of 3 from LSU, starting with a thrilling 7-6 win, 3-6 loss in Game 2, and then you get a blowout 8-2 win, and the Tigers did not score those last 2 runs until garbage time. So Ole Miss had an 8-0 lead essentially through that, starting off with the J.B. Woodman 2-run homer early in that game. And, and John, I'm going to say this. My favorite part about this game, at Game 3 at least, Ole Miss and LSU were neck and neck on the hits. Both teams were getting a lot of hits, but Ole Miss made the plays to make sure LSU did not get home. They did not allow them any runs on the board, kept them off, and really owned that game, kept control of the momentum, and gave them a good taste going forward. Because before this series, we had an 0-2 loss on the road in the neutral site game against Mississippi State. Didn't get that win. That's the one you want to get. Sadly didn't. But before that, you sweep Murray State. You beat Memphis 7-0 in Memphis. And you've beaten Arkansas. You're looking good right now. And another great thing for Ole Miss coming up is their schedule. You've got Arkansas Pine Bluff at Georgia, which Georgia's good. It's on the road. It's going to be a tough battle. But it's still a series where you can be confident going in. Then you've got Kentucky, a neutral site game against Arkansas State, and finally you finish up with the number 2 team in the nation at Texas A&M. So that will be a big one right there. But the best, it's just interesting to see how this season has wrapped up. You've started with that opening, season with Louisville. You take 2 out of 3 from Louisville, who's still ranked in the top 10 right now, I believe, number 8. You took a series from Tennessee on the road. You took a series from Auburn. You swept them. You just took one from your 13th ranked LSU Tigers. Ole Miss was 12, so they're probably going to hop up in the rankings back into the top 10. So, and with one more team in the top of the rankings that you have to deal with until the SEC tournament. So that's going to be a good taste in your mouth going forward. How do you see this team doing in these, not only these next up and coming series, but as far as the SEC championship and possibly a deep run to Omaha again as well?
Well, the schedule sets up somewhat nice. I would say Kentucky is a team that is very capable of giving Ole Miss fits when they come for the final SEC series at home in a few weeks. But the Texas A&M series, of course, they're one of the darlings of the conference this year at Bluebell Park. I guess it's still called that after all the problems Bluebell has gone through as a company in the last year.
Gotta love that ice cream, though.
It's okay. I'm more of a Briars guy, but
haven't had it in a while. But I love it.
I just need to stay away from all ice cream.
Yeah, amen.
But it's a chance for the Rebels to get back into some serious postseason performance. They, of course, have really, in the entire Mike Bianco resume, and he's been here since the 2000 season was his first year. You got to Omaha one time. That was the big problem that everybody had with Bianco all those years. You've come so close. You've hosted super regionals against Texas and Miami, and then you choke. I mean, I think 2 of those times against Virginia, for example, they won the first game and then they lose both of the next games. They were 1 win away from going to Omaha. They finally got it done, of all places, in Lafayette, Louisiana, against USL, or I guess they go by
Raging Cajuns.
Louisiana Lafayette now. They got hot at the right time and punched their ticket to Omaha. So for Bianco's sake, thank goodness they've been to Omaha. But guess what? When you go there, you want to go back. Go ask any LSU fan. That's why LSU continues to put more fans in whatever it's called, TD Ameritrade Park now. Used to be Rosenblatt Stadium. That's why they continue to show up there every year, whether LSU's there or not. So Ole Miss fans that want to get back know that the only way to do that is to peak, as Ole Miss needs to here toward the end of the season, and they need to take these series, get a chance to host regionals, and do well. So right now, it's that time of year where it's a gut check. Ole Miss needs to either perform or they're going to be possibly playing on the road, and if they really collapse, they may not be playing anywhere.
Well, it'll be an interesting ending to this season for sure. But, obviously, if we're, you talked about consistency. I think the oddest part of this season, I think it's been a pretty good season all in all, but the one that really confused me was getting swept by South Carolina and the way they did. Now, maybe credited that could have just been a bad play, or it just could have been that they were that much better. 5-1, 9-5, 4-0 loss, especially that third game, that 4-0 loss. Yeah. You at least take one. But it was not meant to happen that way.
Well, South Carolina's a pretty good program.
Absolutely.
This past weekend, they hosted Florida in a 1-versus-2 matchup. I actually happened to be just a few blocks away from Founders Park is what they've renamed their stadium there in Columbia, South Carolina, and a lot of excitement over their program. They ended up splitting that series. Yes, that's right. Each team won one. They actually canceled the third game of the series because of weather, so it ended up being a draw between the Gamecocks and the Gators, but two of the better teams, of course, in the country going at it. So I can understand losing the series, being swept is a different story. You take that away, I think Ole Miss, other than maybe getting the series loss at Alabama, a little bit of a head-scratcher for Rebel fans.
Right.
But, look, it's still okay. You got a chance with enough series left to make a big impression on the committees. The key is to play games at home. Other than that one time where Ole Miss went to Lafayette and won that super regional, they usually just don't do well when they have to go on the road in postseason play.
Now, tournament baseball is a fun one for sure. It is going to be very exciting to find find out what happens the rest of this regular season. And as far as the Ole Miss baseball upcoming schedule, Wednesday, May 4th, they have another one game against Arkansas Pine Bluff at 6:30 on SEC Network of ESPN. All right, we'll keep it locked here for Hotty Toddy Hotline. We'll be right back.
Hey, Rebels, your truck is here. Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford presents the all-new Ram Rebel. It's Ram, the Rebel way. Send an unmistakable signal. Rebel 24/7. Ram Rebel from your friend in the car business. Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford.
Come by, let's be friends.
Welcome back into Hotty Toddy Hotline. I am Michael Snowden here with Jon Rawl. John, what's up next with our final couple of minutes?
Well, we've got to brag about where we are. We're at a great location, although today's show we've kind of been dodging a little bit of the rain. Because
Gotta love Memphis and Oxford's weather.
Yeah, we took it outside because it was semi-nice when we started, and now we're going to have to speed things up to get out of here before the deluge comes. But Charter Road Hospitality here in Oxford with 4 properties. This great place we're at today, the Town Place Suites by Marriott, right next to the Oxford Conference Center on the east side of town. And next to this property, just behind us, if you're watching us here on television this week, is the Hampton Inn East. And great properties, both built in the last 3 years. And we encourage you to check it out when you come to Oxford. Then you have the Charter Road Hospitality properties on the west side of town. Behind Huddle House, you have the Hampton Inn on Jackson Avenue, and then you have the Holiday Inn Express. And these are places that I've stayed in. We encourage with baseball, the series against Kentucky coming up. If you don't have reservations, please call Charter Road Hospitality at any of their 4 properties and make your plans to come to Oxford for that. You got graduation weekend, which I don't think they've got rooms for that crazy weekend here. Right. But it is a fantastic option anytime you want to come to Oxford to check out Charter Road Hospitality. Awesome people, couldn't be nicer. The rooms are immaculate. I have friends that come here from out of town that stay here and say, man, I go all over the country, and the rooms here are as nice as any place I go to. Maybe not Trump Tower in New York City, but still a great place here in Oxford, Mississippi, Charter Road Hospitality.
Well, you know what? If you come here, you can at least get a guarantee that no one's going to yell at you about anything that has to do with Trump. That's certainly for sure. You will not be pressured into voting in this horrible election. But Trump...
Oh, it's a fun election.
Oh, it'll be fun. I don't mind Trump. I think he's all right. But anyway, here's our final minute. So, John, quick recap. Ole Miss baseball does well. Good upcoming, schedule. Winnable upcoming schedule. And then you got A&M. I think that A&M series is going to tell us a lot about this team. If they can go on the road, if they could steal that one, that'd be a heck of a series to finish with. And as we were talking all so long, Tunsil, he will have an interesting road. I think Ole Miss is going to have the tougher road here coming up, though, with everything that they will have to deal with. Obviously, more investigators will probably be here. But as far as that goes, that will remain to be seen. But good luck to the rest of the players. Final thoughts?
It's just been a bizarre show. Thanks for letting me come here. Browning, you missed out on the good one, sir.
Well, thank you for allowing me to come in and do the show today. Always love to speak about Ole Miss sports and everything else. Well, thank you for being here with us today from the Town Place Suites Studios. So I am Michael Snowden here with executive producer Jon Rawl. We will see you next time. Thank you for listening and watching Hotty Toddy Hotline. Have a good one, folks.